President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Tuesday General Tut Q. Gatluak, the security advisor to South Sudan's president. The meeting was attended by the General Intelligence Chief Abbas Kamil. During the meeting, the South Sudanese security advisor handed President al-Sisi a message from President Salva Kiir. The meeting tackled means of boosting bilateral ties and the latest developments in Sudan. It also centered on ongoing efforts to settle the crisis and the security of the Sudanese people, as well as humanitarian and political challenges to the country. Both sides stressed on the significance of urging Sudanese sides to keep the truce and moving to a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire. They reiterated that the permanent ceasefire would allow humanitarian aid into the country and open the path for a constructive dialogue to settle the crisis and continue with the transitional path and the political process to keep the unity of Sudan. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli witnessed the signing of strategic framework between Egypt and the United Nations on Tuesday, which organizes the development projects which the UN agencies are operating in Egypt implement in accordance with the priorities of Egypt's government and its National Plan for Sustainable Development 2030.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli witnessed the signing of a strategic framework between Egypt and the United Nations on Tuesday. The partnership framework is signed from the Egyptian side by Minister of International Cooperation Rani al-Mashat and the resident representative of the United Nations in Egypt, Elena Panova. Addressing the ceremony, Prime Minister Madbouli said Egypt achieved great development in facing global challenges. The Prime Minister noted that the government prioritizes quick procedures to boost economic development. For her part, the Minister al-Mashat said the signing ushers a new strategic stage of mutual cooperation between Egypt and the United Nations, one of the biggest international organizations. The Minister confirmed that her ministry is keen to tackle its national role regarding the enhancement of benefiting chances from the international strategy between Egypt and the UN. The framework organizes the development projects which the UN agencies operating in Egypt implement in accordance with the priorities of Egypt's government and its National Plan for Sustainable Development 2030. These projects come in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Both sides co-chair the Joint Steering Committee of the Strategic Framework of Partnership between Egypt and the United Nations for Sustainable Development. Earlier, Madbouli and Farid Belhaj, the regional vice president of the World Bank Group for the Middle East and North Africa, witnessed activities of the new Strategic Regional Conference between Egypt and the World Bank 2023 to 2027. Madbouli stressed that cooperation with the World Bank is characterized by being transparent and effective.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli held a tour to the new administrative capital where he inspected the headquarters of the Capital Security Directorate as part of preparations to hand over the building in a bid to start operating it. The Prime Minister also inspected the security and radar system in the headquarters. Madbouli inspected the control system as well as cameras and monitors specified to follow up all areas in the new administrative capital. During his tour, the Prime Minister visited the data center that collects all information concerning ministries in the administrative capital. Madbouli also inspected the Housing Ministry headquarters at the governmental district where he listened to Minister of Housing Dr. Azam al-Ghazzar's statement concerning the building continents. He was informed by the entry and exit system of the ministry's employees and the electronic gates system. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry visited Juba to convey a message from President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to South Sudan's President Salva Kiir on the situation in Sudan. This came after wrapping up his visit to Chad's capital, N'Djamena. During his visit to Chad, the top diplomat delivered a message from President al-Sisi to the Chadian President Mohamed Idris Deby. During his meeting with the Chadian President, Shoukry reviewed Egypt's efforts since the start of Sudan's crisis. He pointed that Egypt had received more than 60,000 from Sudanese fleeing from military confrontations. The two sides agreed on the necessity of continuing joint coordination to solve the crisis and keep the unity and safety of Sudan. Within the framework of Egypt's intensive efforts to return Egyptians and foreigners stranded in Sudan, an Egyptian military ship arrived at Safega port carrying 466 people, including 272 Egyptians and 184 Sudanese and other nationalities. Authorities continue the evacuation of Egyptians and other nationalities from Sudan and guarantees the safety of others who have not returned home yet. The International Organization for Migration said on Tuesday that more than 700,000 people have fled their homes in Sudan to escape from fighting between rival military factions. It was not immediately clear if they were heading to Sudan's 7 international borders, over which at least 150,000 people have crossed. Last week, the UN agency said about 340,000 people were internally displaced. The World Health Organization said 604 people had been killed and more than 5,000 injured since the violence erupted on April 15th between rival factions. Minister of Defense and Military Production Mohammed Zaki met with his Iraqi counterpart Thabit Mohammed Saeed al-Abbasi and his accompanying delegation. The meeting dealt with developments of the regional and international arenas and their repercussions on the security and stability in light of the current challenges and circumstances, as well as means of increasing bilateral cooperation. The Iraqi minister expressed his appreciation for Egypt's supportive efforts regionally and internationally. Egypt condemned the Israeli escalation in the occupied Palestinian territories. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry stressed its total refusal of such attacks that are contrary to the international law and legislations and worsen the situation to a level that could be out of control in the occupied Palestinian territories and limit the efforts of calm and decreasing tensions.